Hey out there. I'm Greg Colossale, and you are with me on my business advice. I believe this is video number 6. And today we're going to be talking about cash flow, just cash flow in this video. Cash flow is exactly what it sounds like, the flowing of cash. I'm going to actually shut this door next to me just so I can have a little more quiet. Excuse me. And because of speed and time, I don't really edit the videos, so it's going to be in there. Cash flow is just what it sounds like. It's like if you have a homestead and the water flows nearby. The flow of water when you're trying to survive is a wonderful asset. It can, if you can't drink it, it could have fish in it. If you can't eat the fish in it, it could produce energy. And without water, let's just say it was a really primitive time, you would die. And without cash flow, a business dies. Now, cash flow is simply the constant and consistent money that comes in to pay the bills. Every business needs a cash flow. If the cash flow doesn't consistently flow, well, that's cash dead. It is going to die. You can borrow money to keep it going. You can have a lender or borrow from the banks or from a private lender in order to keep cash flowing in. So what does that mean to a business owner? You are pretty free in a lot of ways as a business owner. You work more than the average person, but your choices are somewhat more free. You're more free in your decisions because you don't have a boss. That could be a bad thing. But cash flow it controls you. If you have $10 in the till and your rent is $2,400, well, you better hope $3,000 comes very soon so you could pay your rent. Without that flow of cash, you will be out of business. And I experienced a really aggressively difficult time when I started my business. It should have been because it was in music and it was a recession. Excuse me. It made me learn very quickly that asking for the bills and the invoices to be paid on time and quickly, for mine it was tuition. If your kid comes to my school and you owe me $300, I need the $300. I could be a little lenient here and there, but not at first, because again, you're just taking that money, here's the $300, and you're giving it to someone else after it's given to you. It's just how it works. So if you don't have the right, what's the right word? Personality trait, cash flow will kill you. And I struggled in the beginning with making the demands of the money coming in so that I understood the cash flow would be there. And if you fail in this area, your business will fail. So what do you do to keep cash flow coming in? You have to be thinking ahead. You have to know your year. You have to know your market. You have to know, for me, it was kids. In the summer, kids change their routine and are often unengaged, not engaged in stuff. And that nearly destroyed my business. The summer was so hard to come by or to get through that I was like, oh no, let's call it June, July, August, 3 months. Well, with reduced kid interaction, I was like, and I just did not plan for that. So I had to invent summer camps, a real opposite thing that I wanted to do. I didn't want to do them. I had to make up an idea of why a kid would want to be with me in my area during a summer camp and spend 8-hour days, 5 days a week. And that's a lot of time. But I did it and we sold it and it never made me money. And when it comes to cash flow, it provided cash flow. But Mr. C, I think I didn't make any money like to pay me as a person to go live a life. It just made sure the business wouldn't dry up and go out and be all done. So by September, when the kids came back for regular school, my school, we didn't we were still there. We were able to pay for the air conditioning and all that. So that's a great example of cash flow. If I did not, and I learned the hard way, if I went 90 days without business, the cash flow would have dropped off. And unless I had some reserve, I don't know what the number was, but let's say 20, I needed like $20,000 to get through those 3 months, maybe even more. And if I didn't have that, it was over. It's going to just end. So that is why to have the personality that understands cash flow is important. Now, I didn't have it upon the starting of my business. I was mentored. Okay. Now, when you learn from other people, they teach you the realities of these things. That's what I'm trying to do for you. I'm trying to mentor you, whoever you might be, to let you know the realities of the things you're about to get in store for. Let's use dogs again. A lot of people love doing business with dogs. Let's say you have a kennel and it's going well and you have your clients and the dogs are barking and you're feeding them and all that. And all of a sudden in the winter, nobody gives you any business because you have outdoor kennels. You didn't think about that. You're like, wow. So you go 4 months of cold weather. Nobody's giving you a dog because they don't want their dogs to be locked up outside. That seems inhumane. All of a sudden, your numbers start going down and your cash flow is going to see a dip. You're hoping to get to the spring where it starts to return, but how do you control that? So what you do is you invent something. You have to be proactive. This is why I always say nature and business are the same. You all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, if I put up a wall like this, and I put up some, I'm making this up, none of this is a real idea, propane heaters, and then I could heat the dogs and they feel comfortable. And let's say you go through one winter without doing it and your cash flow plummets, and you plan on in the spring and summer to get ready for a new part of your business, indoor kennels in the winter. You advertise, people hear about it, you slowly come around. And by the second or third winter from that moment, you are doing okay. That's what I mean about having to look forward. By looking at the flow is really, flowing is very easy to see, right? The flow. But when the flow dips, then you go, oh, because especially banks, back in the day, like in the 70s and 80s, if you were a good guy in the neighborhood, you could like go to the bank and get a loan. Can I have 10 grand? My business is a little hurting. Yeah, sure. Aren't you John's son? There you go. Those days are over. They don't lend you money for business. Not that often. And why? Because, well, you obviously are hurting. You lost money. And now how are you going to pay us back the 10 grand? You seem like a person who doesn't plan right, and now you need our money. That's pretty scary. So that's the old way. That's why cash flow is such, and it's such an important thing that you'll feel, people make you feel like a jerk. They don't mean to. They just don't live in the same stress. They don't need cash flow. They have a salary. So when you're like, hey, Mrs. Jones, that $800 is due. Mr. Jones, I'm going to need that $500. It's 60 days overdue. And then they say something like, oh, that's not going to happen. I mean, I thought I had to. And you look at them like, please. And then they're like, you're just really a kind of not a nice guy. Then you're like, I need the money, sir and ma'am. Oh, geez. I mean, this place is, what is this? What kind of operation are you running? Sir, it's been 90 days. It's $500. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that money needs to go to the landlord in about 2 weeks. A lot of people don't get this. And so when you push the issue of payment, on-time payment, pay now, please, the ones who are uneducated about this reality, the ones not attached to nature is what I always say, they can become vicious. And then they can go online and turn you into a monster, which I'm going to have a whole nother episode on that. So cash flow in this description that I'm showing you is very, 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 very important. Let me explain. Let me tell you a story, a very, very true and scary story. I think I was in year 3 of my business, maybe 2 or 3, somewhere in there. And we're doing okay. We're not going under. It's growing, and things are great. It's August. Remember, I told you the summers were bad for me. And my numbers lady, one of my moms who took care of the books, she said, "Hey, Greg, I need you to sit down." And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Well, we have $79 in the bank." Now, according to cash flow, all the things I just told you, that's that's really bad. And I said, "Oh, I had nothing. I had nothing. Nothing." And I just said, "Well, it's over." I understand what that means. It means that my business is over. And I came to a quick conclusion. I was sad and upset and disgusted, but I knew as a leader, what am I going to do? Am I going to grow money? How am I going to get money? This isn't going to happen. So I knew right away that it was over. And, I try not to talk too much about this on video, but I'm a spiritual man. Within about 20 minutes, we hear, I open the door, and it's an old friend of mine from teaching. And he said, "Hey, Greg, I heard you're doing great things here. I've been watching you. Congratulations. I want you to know something. My father died." "Oh, I'm so sorry." I said. He goes, "But he left me $600,000 to distribute among the arts. And I'd like to write you a check." And I was like, wow. When I explained to him that I was not a nonprofit, there was no tax write-off, this was just going to be handing me cash, he didn't blink an eye. And he wrote me a check for a couple of months' rent. At the moment when he didn't know that all we had was $79. Cash flow, my ability to manage cash flow failed. And if it wasn't for a miracle, man, my business would have been gone by year 3, maybe 4. Okay? This does not happen to everyone. You should not assume this will happen for you. But it happened for me, and it changed a lot of my life. And we were back on track, and it never came close again to that ever happening. I got more responsible. The stress is insane. The stress of being a leader of hundreds of people and hundreds of thousands coming in when you don't even know what to do. It's very stressful, especially if you're I'm kind of a low-key dude. Well, that was a real story, and that'll show you how easy cash flow can wipe out your whole dream. And then you know what happens? People will sue you and come after you and take stuff, and you're just like, okay, I guess that's how it's going to be. So with that, I just wanted to catch you up to speed on cash flow, making sure that you understand how vital it is, and that people will be mad at you. People will look at you differently. People will think you're greedy or aggressive because they've never been under the pressure of cash flow. Imagine, I once had a teacher buy a house, move from his other house, buy a house, devote his life, most of his life, to my company, even though he was a sub. He just dug in and produced on our behalf, and I try to give him as much work as possible. And cash flow feeds his children. I can't be like, "Oh, you know what, John? I can't pay you this week because I kind of messed up. And can you feed your kids some beans? And maybe next week." That's why cash flow feeds people's children. And if other people get mad at you because you simply are asking for the money that you have, earned, you have to just know that they're the ones in the wrong. They don't understand all of the people that you take care of. Based on the agreement, it's $500 for that service, or it's $20 for that sandwich. You understand? Cash flow. Pay attention to it at all times. See ya.